What's up, everybody around the world? It is time to get into the semifinals for the EU region for DreamHack featuring Fortnite. It's duos. It's two people going in, and there's going to be two champions at the end of this day. I am Sancho Weiss alongside 112K, and this is the first game that we have. This is semifinals. So the way it's going to work, we have about 10 games of action, and it all has to unfold here today. We're going to bring you as much action as possible throughout the entire 50 duos will come out of this entire thing. So 500 duos, 50 duos going into the grand finals, and 112K, it's going to be so interesting to see if an NA team can make it. I know you doubt it, but I believe, baby. Let's make things a little bit interesting, a little bit more spicy. You know what I'm saying?
You know what I'll say? I don't doubt an NA team making it through. I think it's very possible, right? We've seen a lot of NA teams make it through, right? Like there's been some successful teams, and you know, not just any regular ordinary NA teams. We've seen some top NA players make their way in, right? We were just spectating Bizzle gliding through, right? Bizzle and Saf, the likes of Mars, Canada making it in. There's some top NA names here. My biggest issue is I don't see them having much success, even if they do make it to the finals. But it is possible, and I'd love to see it, right? If it could happen, it'd be really entertaining to watch. But obviously, it kind of remains to be seen, right? We just have to wait and see if it does actually materialize into anything. Obviously, we have Bizzle right now on our screen. He's in a bit of a sneak engagement here towards what was once Risky Reels.
Yeah, Bizzle now is going to have an opportunity here. Starting off with 5 points, looking good. And what a strange pair, I would have to say, considering all the Twitter drama that unfolded between Bizzle and Saf, Levin. Like, what a crazy story to see them paired up here, the DreamHack duos in the EU region.
Yeah, it is funny, right? Obviously, it's a bit ironic to see them playing together. I think, you know, I'm not sure the ins and outs of their relationship, you know, personally, right? Obviously, the majority of kind of the beef, quote unquote, was between Zay and Bizzle, it seems. Right. But, you know, ultimately, it is just kind of, you know, it's Fortnite at the end of the day, man. We just gotta, you know, leave it at what it is. It's a bit of drop spot beef. Let's not take it as anything more than that, right? And I hope the two of them, right, and I hope all parties involved will have, you know, respect for each other, as they should, right? Some of the best players to ever play Fortnite. And so, good to see these two playing together. Let's see if they can have some success. Obviously, right now, Saf not too successful. He gets taken out, leaving Bizzle to try clutch things up here.
This is going to be so hard for Bizzle to do this off ping as well. Bizzle and Saf only have 5 points. This is the semifinal, so they have plenty of games to work with. They don't have a set lobby, and that's going to be the end for this game, and they're going to have to re-queue up. But Manu and Gacheto have to feel really good taking out some of the NA East kings for this brief moment here, and that's going to begin their journey with 2 points, right? 2 elims for a total of 10 points. And the way that's going to work out is essentially when you get into the top 25, that's when placement points get doled out, but every elim gets you 5 points. The really most exciting thing throughout this entire time is that you're going to see a lot of duos do their best work in their early games, considering matchmaking is going to be a huge factor, Levin.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think it's teams like this, right, who, you know, you're not a favorite, right? You're not a favorite. But if you can get off to the right start, right, you have a chance. You know, there's lots of players who I think, you know, have the opportunity to make it through. Obviously, you know, need to kind of potentially think about how they're going to rack up, you know, a decent amount of eliminations to pair with their placement points. I think landing towards risky center map, rotations can be a lot easier. So they probably, you know, have worked things out on that side of things where they're not too worried about rotating cross the map and whatnot, but potentially having to get Surge some of the games later down the line, right? Yesterday in Opens, I wasn't expecting to see much Surge. Towards the end games, we did see it a bit. I'm sure the same thing will happen in semis. So these are things you have to think about going into the finals, right? Obviously, people probably haven't put much time into thinking about Surge plans for when you're in finals, right? I'm sure the games will be stacked. I'd like to hope they're stacked. And so, do you have a Surge plan? Do you know where you're rotating to get Surge? Things like this are things we think about in trios and things we're going to have to think about in duos as well.
It's going to be so fascinating to see the duo meta kind of form in front of our eyes. This is the first major duo competition for a lot of the Fortnite pros to navigate what that meta can be. In the qualifiers, we saw in the opens, we saw a lot of sniper play in-game. We saw a lot of use of the bandage bazooka. So a lot of the pros are going to try to figure out what is the best place. And you're already getting a taste of it, what's it like for the semifinals. You're seeing so many duos contest, and it's not going to be as easy as a trio to hold down a POI, a point of interest, or a drop spot all by themselves. Most likely you're going to see a lot of splits. You're going to see a lot of people sharing loot, and we've seen a lot of replays popping up. We see Griff kind of getting the sweeps in and cleaning house right there. Some great work in that warehouse. But the great thing about the DreamHack here at the semifinals is there's a lot of games happening simultaneously, and we're going to bring you all the action, keep you up to date who's getting victory royales, and of course, we're going to take a lot of checks at the leaderboard with our great host, Kelly.
Yeah, and I can't wait to really see how things shape up, right? I think, you know, there's a lot of exciting duos, right, who we can expect to perform well. But even besides those, right, obviously the names of Tayson, Mongrel, Mitro, Nate and Andalex, who are the reigning FNCS duo champions, they're all great big names, but I really want to see Andre and iDrop, right? Winning 5 out of your 10 games, like I said, they clearly have figured out the meta. You know, they have an understanding of how to close out games, it seems. And so if they can translate that into the semis, then you've got to pick them, right, as one of the favorites to potentially win the whole thing. And so if they come out with like a hot start and start winning a couple games in the semis, we definitely got to keep a close eye on these guys.
At the same time, there's stories of redemption throughout the entire EU region. And one of those stories that we're going to keep an eye on is Kha'Zix and 4ZR. They did not really make it into the FNCS trios because they slipped up in the week 4 of qualifiers. They went down into the wildcard game, which was Crazy Fnatic, and they did not make it. And so because of that, I think Kha'Zix and 4ZR, alongside with the Benji and Mr. Savage, who did not have a great performance as well, up to their standards in the FNCS trios, I think, honestly, we haven't made our picks yet. So while this battle happens here between Kezar, and he's going to have to do it without the Neo in your box, I'm going to have to say, my pick to win the entire thing for the DreamHack Duo Champions, it's going to be Benji and Mr. Savage. That is my pick, Levin. Lock it in.
Savage and Benji, that is a good pick. You know what I'm saying? It's a good pick. I think I'm going to have to go with Tayson and Thomas.
AC? Okay.
Yeah, Tayson and Thomas. They had a hot week, right, coming in. They won the Amar Cup, you know, which was kind of the first kind of premiere look at any sort of duos, right? They did well yesterday in Heat 1. They did well. Started off slow, but started to pick things up towards the end as Kez are going to finish off this fight here. Cleaning up the 2v1 actually as well, which is pretty impressive. Good way to start things off. He's going to get his teammate in a reboot now.
And with 4 elims, so that's 20 points right then and there. And these were the kind of hot starts as you see in the feed in this match. Manu going down, so not enough power picking up Zayt and Bizzle. But now we see Building Legends technique in a Pickle himself in a 1v2 situation. And this is the differences between trios. And you may be saying, yeah, I know, Sancho, I know math. 3 is going to be greater than 2. But in these situations, it's going to allow you to clutch a little bit easier. And again, another duh statement, but hear me out. In trios, in these early and mid engagements, soloing a 1v3 is extremely difficult. But as a duo, you could kind of have to be careful and watch out for a solo superstar. And a lot of the EU region, we kind of have this debate, Levin, all the time as casters is, what about the EU region? And the bottom line is the EU region, they know how to fight really well.
Yeah, most definitely. It's why there's certain players whose their names are just upheld so high in the Fortnite community because their prowess when it comes to fighting, box fighting engagements, W keying is just, you know, beyond anything we've seen in other regions at times. And there are certain players who can match that in other regions, right? Obviously, the likes of a Reet, right? You know, somebody who can really come out and stomp and has shown that he can do that here and DreamHack on day one. But of course, right, we call out EU for how good they are at fighting, but it's going to be important to highlight that, you know, beyond fighting, who's actually able to, you know, find some form in the end game, because, you know, you can be as good as fighting all you want. Oh, what a snipe here. Mano. I say what a snipe. It messed up the shockwave there, but gonna actually pick up the finish and now push onto this player. And in a 2v1 situation against a Sip Toss here as well is not looking likely that he survives. Able to get away for a second really making it expensive, right? Forcing them to use a bouncer now, some more materials. He's burning out his shockwaves as well. So he's making this one expensive, but ultimately, I think it's just a ticking time bomb, if anything. I think he knows he's going down, and so trying to spend as much as possible before he actually does go down. They need to close this one out quickly before he completely runs through everything he has and makes it pretty worthless.
I like what you said, expensive, and not only expensive in resources and loot, but expensive in time. And you're already seeing the other triangles kind of hear all this noise and now focusing and peeking in as much as possible. And I mean, you know what? These are the moments, you know, Marker is going to kind of hold on to this as much as possible, but Deceptos and Solari's Manuel are going to have to kind of wrap this up quickly because the storm is going to come in about 15 seconds here. And that is those precious moments and a shockwave expense. So already, you talk about expensive, a second bouncer's used, and already Manuel and Deceptos have used 2 shockwaves and lost 2 other shockwaves in this engagement here, Levin.
Yeah, it's incredibly expensive at this point, and you know they ultimately have to close this one out, right? And I think we'll see here, yep, Floki and Deceptos do pick that one up in the end, but you know, at what cost? They used so much to actually pick it up in the end. Didn't benefit much in terms of material out of it. It's unfortunate, but you know, good on Marco for making it that expensive, right? That's what you want to do at that stage. If you know you're going down, you know, really make them work for it.
Absolutely. It's just like, you know, Texas Hold'em, man. You're going to want someone to work for all your all-in pot right there in this moment here. And now we're seeing a peek at Stark Industries. I did say at the opening of the show that for some reason Sweaty Sands and Steamy Stacks that's where EU champions are born too. The solo champions were born in Steamy Stacks, but it was this place was the birthplace for Mongrel, Mitro, and Tayson to walk away with the FNCS Trio Championship. A strong performance, and of course, Mongrel and Mitro are duoing it up. And we just saw Deceptos, who their trio mates of Hen and Patrick, are now finding different duo mates. So that's what's really exciting. As you've seen, snipers becoming a huge factor in the duo scene. We've already saw a sniper in a push, and now we see Slick and Sauve with the sniper push, and here they come with that truck and push right now, and they're gonna be able to knock down some builds with it. There's one build knocked out by that truck. That was very anticlimactic, but the chaos is still unfolding here, and let's just make sure to kind of wrap this up quickly and not have another, yes, 180 to the dome wraps it up. And as in the replay, we see Aziz together with Scepter fights inside the storm and claims 2 elims. And so that was earlier in this game. So the action is happening here in his opening game for the semifinals here at DreamHack featuring Fortnite.
Yes, Sancho, I like the conversation about Mongrel and Mitra, right? Mm-hmm. These guys have been playing with each other for, you know, more than a year now. They understand each other as teammates. They've had success in duos in the past, dating back to World Cup. You know, it's going to be a joy to see them, right? Because they are on form, right? They have the momentum after coming off of such an impressive FNCS run. You know, we spoke about how Stark is going to be so crowded. There's going to be so many teams that land towards Stark, right? As you'd expect. But I do not doubt that Mongrel and Mitra will find a way to come out on top. You know, I agree. For any other team, you could argue that, you know, when you have maybe potentially even 6, 7 different duos trying to land at Stark, you've got to give it up just out of sanity. You know, it becomes a genuine full-on 50-50 at that point. How can you possibly control a POI with 7+ teams? But Mongrel and Mitra have this knack of just completely stomping their way through anyone, regardless. I really want to see what happens if they get into a bit of a scuffle with Noah Riley and Vidil, who are also landing towards that POI, and it could get incredibly interesting because those are 2 people who are stompers. Those are 2 people who I consider probably the best 2 skilled players in all of EU, potentially even all of the world, in just like a 2v2 engagement. So if they actually end up running into each other, that one could get interesting. We'll see what happens. Obviously, we have here Lusher and Omega, who are, you know, based up here underneath Weeping Woods, or in Weepings, I should say, with a bunch of teams surrounding them, and they're actually in a nice position because they can hold in the teams coming in here. Postic, Deceptos, and Floki we can see coming in. Decent positioning for them.
Yeah, very strong position. Of course, Kasker and Posta coming from NA East. Casker known for running with Smack and Unknown in the FNCS trios for NA East. And one thing I want to point out real quickly about Mongo and Mitro is Tayson was a big factor in those trios. He was the glue, the in-game leader that kind of guided them. So it's going to be so interesting to see, can Mongo and Mitro tamper their aggression? But you're right, it is those deadly start drops in a duo competition that's going to be so difficult to navigate. We already got a taste of it in the opens, and we saw that they were so aggressive and they kept landing there, and they were willing to take those 50-50s and like eat those like really low placements, so to speak. So we're gonna see how all that unfolds here, but Omega and Lucio doing really well with the double beams, picking up Dennis there in the elim. Nice 5 points right there, and that's the first ones for this semifinals. And taking a look at the in-game as we're getting closer to that fourth circle, it's going to be a very kind of close to a pure Fortnite ending. Not a lot of huge mountains or any kind of crazy lake or extreme cliff drops, anything like that in Stark. It's going to be a pretty basic Fortnite ending here going forward.
Yeah, I think this zone and the way this game's played out has been pretty favorable to a lot of teams, right? I'm sure the teams on the eastern and southeast on the map will be pretty happy. Northern teams like Sweaty, etc., won't be feeling too bad about this one. And if you see here, look, there's a couple teams still towards Salty Springs trying to come in. Like you said, nothing, too alarming. It's not like we have any sort of incredible cliff drops, like if you were to be, finishing the game towards dark or anything. But I think this is where it's even more important that you make the use of your movement. I think I heard a truck there in the background. Will we see some Arab truck rotates coming out? We laugh about it, but yesterday it was relatively effective for them. And I think that is something that we could be seeing being used as like ballers, right? The way ballers were used back in season 9, season 8. If people start using trucks and cars in that manner, maybe, it's more viable to do in duos than it was in trios. Maybe people find some big success out of playing that way. We'll find out today, maybe, if somebody can take that leap of faith.
I agree. Like, we saw that Mars OW took that leap of faith in a taxi cab here in the DreamHack stage. And because he, with no bills, went inside a taxi cab, that ride got him $5,000. Now, on today's board, on today's bag up for grabs, it is a grand total of $250,000. And we will see who will walk away as grand champions later on in the day. But here it is. Storm Surge, a little bit active. It won't be a big factor here, considering only 2 people have to go down. But that is something that we're going to keep an eye on overall as the duo meta is forming. Is Storm Surge going to be a factor? Yesterday, when I was talking to Monster D Face Levitt, he kind of mentioned that in a duos, it won't be as prevalent as in the trios, considering that even in solos is not that much. But it's going to be like a happy medium between the two. But still, it all depends on how aggressive these players play. And right now, just taking a look, the aggression is looking really good for Kiko and Deadside, and they just got a victory royale. So a solid start for Aztecs Kiko's duo.
Yeah, good start for those guys. I think that's right. I think there is, sort of medium that comes out of that. The one problem that I think we always have in EU is that people often underestimate Surge, and people don't plan for Surge. And so regardless of, how impactful Surge will be, I think regardless, you always have to have some sort of an idea of how you are gonna tackle Surge if it does become a problem. Obviously, there were a couple of trios who say that was their downfall this season, and although duos will be a lot easier to manage, it could still be an issue, and so you don't want to ever underestimate Surge.
I agree. Yeah, that's the same kind of issue that we saw with Benji, Mr. Savas, and Lecce in their opening moments of the grand finals. They did not know how to kind of handle Surge because they weren't being contested. I think because the POIs won't be as uncontested as possible, you're gonna have at least some opportunities to net some Surge as you are being contested. But now we're in the half in, half out. In the 5th circle, you're seeing a majority of the board not safe. And here comes the rotations. And these are gonna be very deadly rotations to make because there's a lot of duos already safe. You hear some vehicle rotation. You see the super bouncers, the super shock waves. But now we're getting into the greatest part of Fortnite. We're getting to the in-game. Zone 6, 7, and 8, and 9 will be full rotations. And it's going to be so interesting to see how they handle it. But I'm taking a look at people's kits, Levin. Not a lot of strong kits. And that's just to show you sometimes the disparity of landing in the POI and taking the scavenger route.
Yeah, definitely something that, people have to put some thought into now with the way duos are this season. And, you know, we always have to remember, as much as, you know, there is a meta to adjust to for duos this season, you know, things will be changing potentially drastically relatively soon. But regardless, into this lobby we go, into high ground we go. The battle for height will be interesting, right? We already see some teams trying to posture towards it. Everybody gathered up on that northern side of the zone, and you can see some interesting max distance pulls if it does pull that way. Maybe the zone will favor the majority of the players. We see a player going down here in front of us, Kaizen. I forgot who Kaizen's playing with here. I'm sure someone in chat will let me know. So they pick up one, potentially a first of many as well. And the zone, not too harsh for a lot of players, but for some of these guys on that kind of western side, it is a bit of a max distance. So you want to start to plan your rotation out now. If you have movement, you want to start to maybe look at whipping it out. Light and Wings though, and they're going to be, you know, licking their lips at this one. Everyone has to rotate in towards them, and they're staying up pretty and looking to get as many shots in as possible, maybe even pick up an elimination out of it.
Here we go. The fight for height is on. Multiple duos already at it. Wings and Light were coming from this southwest side, so that's why they have the advantage. But it looks like they're slowly going to go ahead and try to build up for height at this opportunity here. No, they elect to go for second. Now, we always know the great beauty of it all. Low ground, mid ground, and heights. Those are going to be the layers in the 200 pump. Anti-U gets bopped from Wings, and that's going to be a strong start for this in-game start for Wings. And as we're going to wait for everything to catch up here, we have a brief moment as more elims are popping out. Storm Surge is active. Now 13 players have to go down, and that is going to be a yikes for Ziku and Kaizen. There are 231 below. They have a decent tarp here, but they have to work fast. And this is where things get scary, considering that there are 243 below Storm Surge here, Levin.
Yeah, and you see here, players sort of scrambling around all around the area. The Sip Toss here and Floki. The Sip Toss going down, and he's going to be taken out for the rest of the game. Floki was able to slip away, but now left alone to fight off for himself. And that's going to be the story for a lot of these players, right? Getting separated from their duos for just a moment, and once you go down, and Kaizen going down now. And just what we saw happen earlier, happening again now to this duo. Kaizen's not going to be able to get picked up, so this duo left to fend off for himself. Rotations coming in, and in a lobby full of duos, there's so many solos left alive.
And now Storm Surge has been turned off, so now everyone has an opportunity here. It's all going to be clean Fortnite the rest of the ride here. And as you see in the chaos, Ziku, these are the points that matter the most when you have zero business of surviving as a solo. The great news is he does have a epic shotgun, but he gets hit right in the back. The crack in the back is going to cause some chaos as Ziku now has to retreat down to the low ground. And that is where a lot of chaos, a lot of mud's going to be slain. Taking a look at your left side, you got Phantom and Karyargro sitting at height looking great, and the Storm is pulling back. So that's going to be a strong opportunity to maintain that height. We're going to keep up with Ziku on the low ground. He has the fluffers. He's looking good. He's going to have an opportunity. Yes, gets another elim and that siphon. Oh my goodness, but gets bopped with mouthful of fish.
Yeah, and now look. If you look up above height, Phantom and Karyargro, they're sitting together, sitting strong, and it doesn't even look like anyone's trying to contest them. But over here on low ground, you see so many players left alive. Lucia, who we were watching earlier, gonna get the big put off and try regroup with his teammate now. And if these two can stay together, rotating on this far side of the zone, they have a good chance of racking up even more placement points than they already have. It's gonna be a matter of actually breaking through all these old builds now and hoping they don't run into anybody's box. Trying to control as much edits as possible. Fire trap going down, I don't know if that was a misplaced, but still able to avoid so many people just staying alive longer and longer as Phantom and Karyargro still stay on height. It seems like the lobby is just frozen at the moment. Nobody really making any sort of moves, any sort of plays. I spoke too soon because Lucia picks up one and they pick up an unsuspecting player on the low ground, and now so many players left off to fight in between them.
Lucia, Omega are really working well on the low ground. We've seen an appearance of the Bandage Bazooka, giving them that extra heals as they're making their way. Lucia picks up an elim, 79 points so far, 6 elims for the low ground. Bantam goes down at height. So now it's a 2v1 situation for the first game we're watching right here at the DreamHack Open for the semifinals. Cayugo, the Lone Ranger, going against Omega and Lucia. And Omega and Lucia have all priority in the storm. It's going to be a 1 bump and it's over going for Cayugo, but Omega actually goes down. It's a 1v1 and that is not enough. Lucia holding on with the Bandage Bazooka, getting our first victory out on the DreamHack broadcast, Levin.
What an amazing game for these two. Guys, we'll be back right after this break, so stay right with us.